It don't matter what I try, I just can't win and I don't know why. There's a fork in every road, I pick the wrong one and then I go. American loser, yes I am, disenfranchised from everything. Well, I fall up and I fall down, an American loser the day I was born.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of American Loser. Where else could we be other than a shared universe podcast studio in Eatontown, New Jersey? Mike and Ming take great care of us as always. In fact, this particular Sunday, who behind the ones and twos? The big kahuna has passed away again, unfortunately. He died in gang violence in Howell, New Jersey. All right, it was a Six Flags related gang, and they gunned him down mercilessly. He might be back next week. We don't know. But who's behind the ones and twos? The boss himself, Ming Chen. How are you, sir?
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's an honor to be here. Yeah, man, the Big Dipper gang, man. They're rough, man. They're rough, and
they offed our boy. So
yeah, I told him not to get involved, man. I told you don't let him get you sucked in, and he got sucked in. So I'm here today.
It's okay. It's the big kahuna is he's actually not dead. He's just probably playing with puppets somewhere and didn't want to come to work today.
I was going to say, when Hawaiian people die, you have to release a lei into the ocean. We do it for my family.
That voice, by the way, for those listeners, one of my most charismatic friends. In another life, he would have been a cult leader. Instead, he is just one of my favorite comics to watch. Now, I originally knew you as Andy Highroller. Okay,
right.
Your real name. You want to give your real name out?
Yeah, my real name's Andy Lawson.
Yeah. So, and he's good to go on the sound mic because he's. I'm sorry, Ming
coming in.
Should
he be back or
sounds
forwards?
great.
He's so laid back. That's the problem.
Yeah, I gave him the one that picks up real well for the people who love to just kind of chill back here.
Well, dude, there is no more chill guy than Andy, man, because we're sitting here. He brought in some Cook's extra dry champagne.
Okay, now, in defense of the Cooks, there's not a lot of brands that make mini bottles.
Correct.
So this is not my go-to champagne. That would be Corbel. I don't want to, I don't want to hear anything.
No worries, man. No, the champagne move is a good move on that. We do typically try to drink Ross Brewing on this podcast, the official beer of American Loser, but someone tapped the keg.
Okay.
His name's Kevin Garifo. He's a friend of mine. He did it on the Calamity Jane episode. I think he had about 11 and a half beers.
Yeah, I feel like champagne is the nitrous oxide of alcohols. Like, it's a quick up and you're hanging there and then you come down and there's not a lot of, there's not like a lot of hangover, but it's a good conversational. It's a good conversational drink.
No, this is the move for Sunday morning like we're doing right now. This is good.
Morning. Could have brought bagels.
Now, not for nothing, Andy, here's why I love you, pal. First of all, you're a funny dude, fun guy to talk to. And then also, you listen to the show.
Yes, I've listened to probably 6 or 7 episodes now.
I hear you, man.
The dynamic with your dad is really funny and endearing. And it doesn't seem contrived, which is...
And that bastard abandoned us to go down to South Beach again. So it is what it is. We're stuck with Adam this week.
You think he has another family down there?
That's probably. But not for you came up with the topic for this week's episode.
Oh, yeah.
A pretty fascinating guy. I knew nothing about him going into this. And as soon as I started reading about him, I was just like, whoa, this is, you did mention the name of a famous American conspiracy theorist.
Oh, yeah. I was going to come in with a spread of documents like I was Alex Jones. I just have it all over and like maybe even go full character with like a black jacket and just try to hang out in that mode for as long as I could.
But, turn the frickin' frogs gay.
Yeah. I mean, dude, he's had so many great things. Babies wrapped in gold leaf foil. Just like... And I got into him back in the day when it was not like the thing it is now. It was not that entity that people have like let it become or that it has become. Like, I got into him when he was fun. I got into him when he was basically fat David Duchovny.
Oh man, it's there's also that conspiracy theory that he is Bill Hicks.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a conspiracy theory that Jimi Hendrix is also Morgan Freeman.
Now we're talking.
I can show you the pictures. I have the documents.
Well, not for nothing. Today's topic that you came up with, this guy rules. It's not Alex Jones, for those listening at home. You'll figure it out with the title of it. Today we're going to talk about America's, quote, minister of propaganda. So, Ming, you've done well for yourself. You have an awesome podcast studio. It's a cult following, too, by the way. What's the last thing you bought?
Last thing I bought with my own money,
Yes.
was probably a Miller High Life at the Saint in Asbury Park last night.
Not actually another place Andy and I have done comedy. That's funny.
The champagne of beers, ladies and gentlemen.
What made you pick that beer?
It was $4, and I love the champagne of beers.
I've gone in back. I went through the whole microbrew thing, and then I just have come back around to what I call a cheap beer renaissance, where it's like I bought the $12 4-packs, and like now I'm just back. PBR, Tecate, this stuff called Boxer Ice. It is $16 for a 36-pack, and it's as good as Yinling. And that's, it's nice to not have to go out.
That's the problem with working in the craft beer industry, as I'm doing now, is that all those beers.
I'm
are
saying
good.
the exact wrong thing.
No, you're good. I get so fat drinking these. It's insane. You're just like, I'll just have one or two, and then you forget it's like essentially a loaf of bread in every bottle, as my father would say.
Liquid carbohydrates, ladies and gentlemen. But man, is it yummy. Man, does it make you feel good.
Well, you're right on that. Now, not for nothing. So it was $4, so that's why you bought the Miller High Life.
Yes.
But there's so much programming that goes into, because I don't see commercials for High Life. I see Miller commercials all the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't think they have to. I think it's a trickle-down advertising effect.
Which is kind of what we're going to talk about today with the loser, right?
Surprisingly enough, Edward Bernays was...
Who is today's loser, by the way? We're having
sorry.
fun. Is it Bernays or Bernays? I keep calling him the sauce.
Look,
Does
does it really matter? Like, he actually was behind a campaign that because America during like pre-prohibition or whatever was worried that they were drinking too much, so he pushed beer as the alcohol of moderation. He was behind a campaign.
I hate to say that's kind of how I'm trying to fix my life right now.
That's why I brought it up. He was trying to popularize beer as like, you can have as many of these as you want and you're not an alcoholic, which is something I've been telling myself for some time.
Oh, that's when I'm living right, it's because I'm having just a couple of beers.
Right.
It's if I start like, I'm getting a little fat in the face, better start hitting the Jameson. But then you drink whiskey at a beer pace, and that's when you start calling out at work and no showing Christmas Eve. I'm sorry, cousin Megan, I love you. I'm going to get my life right, I promise.
And I don't miss work. It's just something, I don't know. I don't like to miss work, and I don't like to not create art. Those are my two cutoffs.
Which is why you're lucky you were able to find your passion in working for ISIS. Andy's rocking a hell of a Bin Laden beard right now. I got to say that about him. He's got his Cuba dictator hat on too.
Yeah, but which Bin Laden? The fake one from the CIA tapes, or the real one living in the mountains?
I have the documents.
Let's be done with that. Let's not. I will spiral forever on any topic regarding that.
No worries. I'll tell you what, because we're going to hop in on Bernays or Bernays here, however you want to pronounce it. Fascinating guy. Ming brought up a photo of him already. Not a handsome man, okay? Not a handsome man. Not an ugly man either, but an interesting guy nonetheless here. Ming, you hear the word propaganda, and it has a rough sound to it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every time.
So what if we just... There's an undeniable negative connotation that comes with it. So what if we just change the name of it and then do it anyway?
Meaning?
Welcome to the man who created the term public relations.
Really?
Edward Bernays.
That sounds much more pleasant.
He took propaganda and he goes, you know what, this propaganda thing, people don't like the word propaganda because they think it's going to involve being lied to. And I actually have the legit definition of it here. Propaganda, by definition, is information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. So... you see all sorts of stuff. I put it up on the American Loser Instagram account that there was a rumor back in the day, it was disproven, but that Ben Franklin wanted the turkey over the bald eagle as the national bird of America. So what my buddy did was he photoshopped turkeys into all the American war propaganda, like a helicopter in the background and shit like that, and it's pretty wild. But that for an example is kind of what, propaganda would be considered, because it's all this good imagery of like the noble fight and everything, but everybody uses it sometimes for nefarious purposes. Am I setting him up okay so far?
I think so. I mean, like, he's really good in the quotables. I mean, if you Google, you'll get like top 50 lists of the quotable things that he says. One was, we are governed, our minds are molded, and our tastes formed largely by men we have never heard of, which sounds remarkably like JFK's secret societies, secret oaths, secret proceedings, like kind of thing. And so, yeah, I mean, he had his hands in everything from like war. He sold war to like drinking cups.
Yep.
Like he sold
I have a list of a couple of things that he was able to pull off, man. Now, this guy, he figured out the human psyche, which is interesting because you know who he's related to, right?
Sigmund Freud.
Yep. He winds up being, I think it's considered a double nephew is what they called him.
That's so annoying.
That's
so annoying. Like, and that also sounds like, I'm from South Jersey. That sounds like some South Jersey situation.
My double nephew?
Yeah. I'll put that out there.
My double nephew works at Wawa.
Yeah.
Well, this week's loser does all these things in spades. We're talking about the infamous, brilliant, and possibly evil genius that is Edward Bernays, who was born in Vienna in 1891, and oddly enough comes from a Jewish family. And he is related to legendary psychiatrist Sigmund Freud, who, you know, pretty much figured out that at our hearts, everyone wants to fuck their mother.
Oedipus.
That's
right.
I love that Colin Quinn joke when he was talking about when they wrote Oedipus, and he goes, "Is that you guys you think that's about me? Is that about me, guys? You know me because I want to fuck my mother, kill my father." Is that?
I mean, did Freud just rebrand Oedipus? Is that like the whole? And then he's like, "This is my idea now." I don't know. I might find my new idea. That's an old idea.
Well, I wonder if that was just his catch-all for everything, because there's always, they talk about it a lot, especially I'm rewatching Cheers again for the 100th time, and Frasier brings it up quite a bit. But
okay. My series like that is Malcolm in the Middle.
That's nothing wrong with it.
It was good.
That was a prequel to Breaking Bad, if I recall.
In a lot of ways. Dude lived to be over 100. He was an octogenarian.
Oh, that's the term. You're right. Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, lived a long life. Comes to America as a young kid. Okay, the family gets over there, and not for nothing, if you're Jewish in, you know, Austria-Hungary, you want to make sure you get out of there.
Right.
Okay. It's not really going down just yet, but the Jewish population, not quite popular. Now, not for nothing, I found this out too. Propaganda, going back to just that word, was used heavily by Rasputin in the old Tsarist Russia. Okay. And some of the paperwork and the literature that was getting passed around that was anti-Jewish, blaming them for all the ills of the world, made its way over to Germany. And the Germans, they kicked it up a notch. Okay? So things get a little bit wild out there in Europe around this time frame. But luckily, Bernays makes it over to the United States. And like we said, he's related to Freud. He's got this, who is a genius in psychology. And then because of that, they always said, too, that if you talk to Bernays, it was like, within, you and me are both comics. So, you know, when you talk to a comic and they can't wait to tell you, oh, I just got so much going on right now. I mean, I got a spot here. I'm going to be open up for so-and-so on the road. It's like, dude, I just asked how you were.
Yeah.
I was like,
and he was like that, talking about his, that was his interesting detail. I'm his double nephew of, is that what you're going to say?
Yep. That's the first, that's his credit. He wants to be brought up on stage with the double nephew of Sigmund Freud.
Yeah.
But Freud does play, his whole work in the field of psychology does play like this huge, huge role in Bernays' legacy. So they moved to New York. Edward attends Cornell University, which I don't know if you're into partying, Andy, but that's a good school to do some partying at.
I feel like I read conflicting things. Like sometimes he was in school with Noam Chomsky and sometimes he wasn't.
Whoa.
Yeah. I feel like I read a few articles that said yay and then a few articles that said nay. And I probably could have like figured it out, chased it down. But, I mean, I like the lore of it. You know, I like the lore of this almost like split dichotomy of these two guys. Like, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, because Chomsky, you know, for better or for worse, depending on what you're reading, but he is almost anti-propaganda.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the full ugly truth. Sometimes to counteract the propaganda, he has to go like the complete other way with it, too, which is, I read a bunch of his shit in college. So that was, we had to. But not for nothing, Bernays is working as a... this one made me laugh here, too, is that he goes to Cornell University, gets a degree in agriculture, and then decides he's going to make the jump into journalism.
Yeah. And it was all in 1912. And so I found it, like, aside from the early history, he did this thing. He was still charging over $1,000. By the time his career, he was 95, still charging over $1,000 an hour for consulting fees.
But he was worth his weight in gold.
So this run that started then continued nonstop.
Oh, shit. Dude, he pulls off some stuff here, too. And not for nothing, he actually gets married in 1922 to, this one makes me laugh. I got some jokes in my act about feminism, and you and me have had some conversations where love women, respect women, but there's that hyper-progressive form of feminism. It's kind of ripe for parody. So,
Right.
This one made me laugh. He marries Doris Fleischman, okay? And she famously refuses to take his last name on feminist grounds. And Bernays is actually all about this. He goes, oh, my wife, she's keeping her last name, blah, blah. I'm so proud of her. Because she was a member of this group known as the Lucy Stone League. There was like a kind of like a women's rights, suffragette kind of a thing. But it made me laugh because eventually she does wind up taking his last name, probably around the time when he started getting $1,000 per consultation.
Yeah.
Once he becomes famous, you're like, oh, you know that I'm actually a Bernays myself.
Yeah. I would definitely at that point be like, all right, like maybe these social constructs are working out a little bit.
Now that I am the patriarchy, let me... Well, the joke I have in my act, Ming, I don't know if you ever saw it. It was, I had another clip of it up on my Instagram, but essentially it was a girl I was dating at the time was a radical feminist. And she told me, she goes, if we ever get married, I'm not taking your last name because I'm a feminist. And I was like, that's fine. You can keep your dad's. I can't tell you how many
Why
complaints...
are you not together anymore? I'm not really sure. I can't imagine.
Well, she learned not to wake me up at 4 a.m. She was a bartender, so it was what it was. But yeah, no, not for nothing. This whole thing, the two of these guys, like sometimes when you hear about a couple getting divorced or something like that, they say like, oh, well, you were partners together, so, your wife deserves part of your money from your earnings. She's completely 110% ingrained in everything this guy does. Helps with ghostwriting for him, editing stuff. I mean, they were almost like a power couple in a sense. But she does wind up taking the last name eventually. And Bernays, his first gig that he gets, he's working as a medical editor, which I still don't know what that means. I'm not going to lie. All right. We're not actually smart on this podcast. We just read a little. We're literally one piano lesson ahead of the audience. But in this medical editing gig that he has, he winds up starting to make some really strong connections with guys with last names like Vanderbilt and Rockefeller.
Okay.
And
the secret society.
Yeah, he's getting inside the Bohemian Grove.
Yeah.
But that's his first foray, if you will, into the world of, quote, propaganda. Now, something interesting going on in the world right around this time frame is an incident known as the Great War. Okay.
Because it wasn't World War I yet.
Yeah, it would have been, that always cracks me up when people don't understand that you can't, it's not, it's the first one, okay? You don't know there's going to be a second one just yet. So when they refer to it as the Great War, or...
It was supposed to be the war to end all wars.
Yeah, not really. It's like the once-in-a-lifetime billing for, like, when Mayweather fought McGregor.
Yeah.
And now they're talking about a sequel already, so...
It's, when Black Sabbath, farewell tour.
Yep.
Number 6.
And Motley Crue, they had their farewell tour, and I really think they're going to, regret bringing Vince Neil. Vince Neil looks like me right now. That's not good. Okay? That's... I grew my hair out to look like Vince Neil a little bit, and then I was like, that's kind of funny. He actually just looks like me now.
You're starting to look like a retired Thundercat.
That's... I got to work on myself. Ming brought up photos of him already. Yep, that's the guy. I need a couple more tattoos. It's weird that Vince Neil now looks like Meatloaf.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what is he, though? 60, 70?
Oof.
Oh, that's a bad one.
Yeah, it's we're talking about a decade. Him and Axl Rose, the two guys in the 80s that, like, were essentially the kings of rock, and now they both look terrible.
No, Axl still looks good.
You think Axl looks good still?
Yeah.
Oh,
Look at that top middle. He still looks great.
Yeah, it's he's banging Lana Del Rey. He's got that going for him.
That's why I think you got to be more of like an Action Bronson. Just start out obese, and then anything in the direction of better shape is like, wow, he's killing it.
That's the move. I think that there's almost some Bernays-like propaganda in your mindset there.
Dude. It's in everything. We eat bacon, we eat eggs, it's him. We drink beer, it's him. Like,
he did. That's correct. He just explained to the audience, due to one of his marketing ploys in this work of propaganda that he got into, he actually engineered the idea of the American traditional breakfast being eggs and bacon.
And he bought his own newspapers that seemed like real newspapers, but they were just filled with his ideas. And that is beyond, like, brilliant for the time.
Yeah, we're here. By the way, it's hilarious because we're going to talk about the evils of advertising and the the psychological damage and everything that it incurs, going through. And then we're also looking for sponsors actively on this show.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think maybe just start shouting out sponsors that you don't have yet, and then sending them the clips.
That might be the move there. So
yeah, you got to reverse engineer it. That's what you got to do. That's what everything is.
Well, he's a pioneer in this field too, which was interesting to me because he gets started. He's actually working in World War I. The spin that they hire him to put on the war, because not for nothing, America, we're friendly again with England at this time. But I always bring this up on the show because it was fascinating to me. The two largest immigrant populations in America at this time, at the outbreak of World War I, are German and Irish. Okay? So what you're saying is if America's going to get into the war, are we going to back Germany and then, piss off England, who we're just starting to get comfortable with again? And then, or are we going to go to war with the side of the Allies like we wind up doing and essentially aiding the British, who are also oppressing like the first cousins and the sisters and brothers back in Ireland? So you're going to piss off one of your two major groups here no matter which way you go. They did not want to get into the war. So they hire Bernays, who puts a nice little spin on it. It's not about getting involved in foreign affairs. It's about preserving diplomacy.
I found a really good interview with him, and I don't know whether I found it through YouTube or BitChute, but it was just him talking about, casually talking, like we would talk about, the lineup of, a comedy show or, what we're going to do for a night. And it was like, all right, so Switzerland was like, we want to do this. And he was just, dictating the history and as if it was just friends planning an evening. Ugh. And then they went ahead and did everything.
There really is some Game of Thrones to the whole World War I thing. You know what I mean? Kingdoms falling and crashing down. A couple of small groups pulling all the strings for everything. Not for nothing. The entire war, the entire world went to war because, what's his name?
Hans Duke Ferdinand.
Well, no, the guy who shot him.
Christian Andersen.
No, Hans Solo.
The Archduke Ferdinand.
Yeah, Archduke Franz Ferdinand was shot. And I can't believe it's Princep. I can't believe I'm screwing up the guy's name. Doesn't matter. But that's the impact that an individual can have. Now, we're talking about the guys who had a physical impact. This guy's slowly behind the scenes on everything, man.
Yeah.
I was blown away by it. So
I think people like this have trees that are made up. And I think we see it now especially, and that's why things seem premeditated. Like when a tragedy happens, things seem premeditated. Because I think people like this have trees. If this event happens, here are the options. Here are the options off of that option. And then we can dictate exactly, we can get the result we want based on a tragedy. And that's how I think a lot of these conspiracy theories come up.
Oh, totally.
Is because they are people who, a tragedy will happen. Here's what we're going to do.
The never waste a good tragedy was always a good quote that I enjoyed the accuracy of. But get this one. This is the best term that I could have thought of for the whole what he was doing in World War I. The group that he was attached to was known for, and even Bernays himself would talk about this, that he was involved in what is now known as psychological warfare.
Yes.
Yeah. Not just a freaking John Mayer album.
What was John Mayer?
I think he had a psychological warfare. I can't remember. But
yeah, he was quoted as saying, ideas are weapons more effective than bullets.
It's right, dude. I
mean, especially in the modern cancel culture, you can just take somebody out.
Well, absolutely right. And then also that woke, progressive kind of way of doing things, that crowd that they're attempting to appeal to, they're hilarious because there's almost I've heard this term used, it's called woke capitalism. Okay, where you're taking these progressive ideas and then selling them back. So people are like, oh man, this is great. I really agree with this company's message. It's like, dude, they cashed in on you. They found your weak spot, just like Bernays did with everybody. He gets into your head, finds out what you value, then sells you something that has nothing to do with it. You know, do you know how many people bought Nikes because they wanted to support Colin Kaepernick?
I think that Saturday Night Live ran a beta test with that girl Melissa Villaseñor. But Saturday Night Live is dying. No one watches television anymore. They don't even allow their clips on the internet, which is they're just burying themselves.
Yeah, agree.
Okay, and then they hired this girl Melissa Villaseñor, who's a Spanish girl of Spanish origin or some sort. And then they're like, oh, she said some anti-Spanish stuff. I think they're using outrage culture to popularize themselves. I think that Melissa Villaseñor was the beta test for Shane Gillis. I think they hired him knowing what was going to happen, just so that when the outrage, spiked, everybody was talking about Saturday Night Live again. I think that was a brilliant roundabout Edward Bernays-like method to get the name Saturday Night Live on your tongue.
I would agree with it too. And not for that, it sounds like we're getting off topic here. We're not. This is all shit that he wrote the book on. Literally, one of his books, by the way, literally just called Propaganda.
Yeah,
that's the title of it. And Gilly's doing okay, man. I got the call to host for him at Stress Factory the other day, and I couldn't do it. So the fact that I met him at the open mic competition for March Madness at Stress Factory a couple years ago,
okay,
and now he's headlining that room.
Right,
he's doing okay. That's
I'm not worried. I wasn't.
No, he's God damn it, Andy. But not for nothing, Bernays, fascinating guy here. He's able to, once he figured out his niche for this, which is hilarious because he's using Uncle Sigmund's, playbook, if you will, to now figure out how to sell you products. So he creates like stigmas and everything. Get this one. Also, a little weird side note about him, because when I do my research, we use Wikipedia. We use other websites too. But particularly with Wikipedia, you are sometimes nervous about whether or not what you're reading is correct. Oh, okay. And I had to verify this from two other sources. He won an NAACP award.
Yeah.
So did you figure out why and like his whole campaign with that?
Oh, man, I stumbled upon that. Like, this guy... Okay, so here's the problem. The dude lived for 100 years and he was active for 70 of it. There's so much that you could go over with him that things do get lost in the weeds.
Oh, he's got fingerprints on a lot of shit.
A lot of stuff. And I started reading about some NAACP stuff, and then who knows where that spiraled out into. I don't have the documents here.
Well, he got the NAACP award because he ran the first convention, which was hosted down in Atlanta at, what's the name of that strip club you like, Meg, down there?
That would be the Claremont Lounge, ladies and gentlemen. The greatest place in all the world.
Dude, I'm trying to work on getting in over at Laughing Skull down there. I had a shot with coming in with a headliner that likes me, and it got filled last minute by somebody else. But my dream is to attend that lounge and send you a photo of me hanging out there.
If you get down there, I may just fly down there. Flights are very cheap. It's worth the trip, so I may go with you.
I want to see Atlanta, man. I really do.
You should see Atlanta. It's a beautiful city, as Bernays proved in 1920 at the very first NAACP convention. And, but I'll let you continue.
Ming, because he's such a rapid student, has also caught up to us with being one lesson ahead on the piano, like we talked about. But yeah, he runs the NAACP, and what he did is here's the spin he put on for how to make a compelling argument, because it's still, race relations are not great at the time. Not that they're even great right now, but the appeal they started to make was, well, look at the contributions that African Americans have made to the country. So it's like, we're going to create a sense of value and worth here that even old Whitey can't deny. So you know what I mean? So your racist uncle that's sitting there, can't wait to bust out the fire hose on some people. He goes, nah, man, we have peanut butter. All right. It's the filament in the light bulb. That's all shit. These are contributions African Americans have made to the country. You can't deny them. So he was smart that way. And like you said, dude, I didn't realize the price, that it was $1,000.
$1,000. He was a high-end prostitute well into his old age.
Dude, $1,000 an hour for a consultation. That's good right now. Imagine that in friggin' like 1911 money.
Well, I don't know if it would that. The quote that I read was he took his last consultation meeting about 2 hours before he died in 1995 for a rate of over $1,000 an hour.
And like you said, he made it to age 103.
Dude, he went from like horse. I'm ignorant when it comes to certain things in history, but I feel like he went from like horses and carriage to like internet.
Well, he died in 1995.
Yeah, but I don't know when the car was invented.
Well,
that's my problem. I know. That's not the part of the equation I'm having the difficulty with.
I'm imagining him having AOL, but like all the free minutes on a CD that you stack up a bunch of those. You're like, I got 70 minutes left. This is great. But he was a counsel to politicians and CEOs. One famous one that hired him was, because we talk about presidents a lot on this show, and a guy by the name of Herbert Hoover, I believe in 1932, hit him up to help me out with my presidential campaign. And he created this whole thing where he created division amongst his rivals so that he would seem like an invincible candidate. And by the way, when Herbert Hoover entered the presidency, he was pretty much the most popular man in America. And by the time he left, he was the most loathed president in our history.
Yeah, Hoovervilles.
Hoovervilles for the Great Depression era. Now, not for nothing, another name that I mentioned earlier when he was working as a medical editor, Bernays was hanging out with the Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts, and also a guy by the name of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So when you got presidents on speed dial, you're kind of worth your weight in gold.
Well, he's casually talking at one point. He's like, yeah, Hitler called me. And he was maybe I was going to do some work for him. I was like, I don't want to do any work for you, Mr. Hitler. And he called him Mr. Hitler, which is adorable.
Mr. Hitler makes you think that it's like Mr. Hitler's neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, it's way cuter than Adolf. And also, I think that Dolph Lundgren's real name might be Adolf Lundgren. And that sounds way angrier.
Wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
Well, he... to me, the thing that kind of like jumps out at me about Bernays is he does create this term because his job title, the way he described it too, like you said, he was a psychoanalyst for troubled companies. That's how he would sell himself. That he's like, I'm going to apply Uncle Sigmund's methods to. So now these corporations are finding out they also want to fuck their mother.
Yeah, I mean, he was a weaponized psychologist.
Total. Oh, dude, I read that term somewhere else, but that was pretty much hammer to nail in terms of how to figure it out.
Basically, like as close as you can get to like a Professor X without the wheelchair and the psychic abilities. Well,
not for nothing too. Post World War I, there's this kind of a shitty. There's a lot of people. First of all, it's the first time we're really understanding PTSD. There's guys coming. This whole group of people coming home from that, they're known as the lost generation.
PTSD is like postpartum depression. I don't really believe in it.
I have the documents. It's well, there's this whole generation that's coming back from World War I, known as the lost generation, which I thought was it's always that's where all the weird like beatnik poets are starting off. That's like this whole counterculture thing's really starting around that time frame. The Bohemians, as it were. Mm-hmm. So, but he understands that propaganda, because these guys are, an entire generation has been subjected to that. And I'm talking not just about the men on the front. Okay, I'm talking about the families back home, the women, the children. They're all seeing all this weird shit. They talk about slaying the Hun. Okay, so that you got to paint Germany as the Huns, Attila the Hun. That here's your chance to stand up. We're Rome in that instance. Kind of a weird thing. But he realizes that propaganda has a negative connotation, so he's going to create a new term for it. And you know what that term was?
He turned it into. He has a bunch of names, but one of which is the father of public relations.
Yep, first. So when you say you work in public relations, that you work in propaganda.
Yes.
So
and he there was so much stuff that he did as far as politics that, again, it gets like immeasurable. But he started with Woodrow Wilson, and then he overthrew governments.
That's the wildest one.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into that one real quick here, because my favorite one that I have is I'll just give you a hint towards it, because the one I really want to hit on, because it was it made me laugh while horrifying me at the same time, was Torches of Freedom.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I want to hit on that one in a minute, but let's explain this one too real quick. So the United Fruit Company.
UFC.
Yes, the original UFC. They want to get this. They're pushing bananas. It's like that season 2 of The Sopranos. You were told to push Wabisticks. So we got to sell bananas, all right? And so they hire Bernays, and Bernays now creates this whole thing where, bananas are fun, and bananas are healthy and part of an American, diet. And he's got celebrities eating bananas. He's got images of, people eating bananas, which is hilarious because it's,
Well, that's why I sent you. If anybody wants to kind of understand how this was marketed, there's a great scene in a movie called Sweet November with Keanu Reeves. Mm-hmm. And he is an ad agent in that movie, and he's selling hot dogs. So if you Google Keanu Reeves hot dogs, it is Edward Bernays incarnate. Like, it is his methodology, but you're seeing it in real life with an incredibly handsome man showing you,
Well, not for nothing, too. What was the other one you pointed out to me, that the Devil Wears Prada?
Oh, The Devil Wears Prada is full of Bernays.
Yeah. That's... It's so insane, too, because, there's people that'll watch that movie and they're just like, I've been thinking about getting into it. It's like, you want to get into propaganda? That's what you're about right now?
I'm thinking about getting into Meryl Streep.
That's, you know what?
You know what I mean?
You ever see a young Meryl Streep in The Deer Hunter?
I don't even... Now.
Oh, I there's never
that
been an
movie.
expiration
She is
date.
gorgeous. There's a lot of So there's a lot of George Clooney's out there. There's only one Meryl Streep.
Not for nothing, dude. No, you're right. Actually, someone pointed out something wild to me the other day. Brad Pitt is older than Kathy Bates.
Okay.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah.
Unsettling.
Yeah.
But it's all about image. So back to Bernays. See, they think that because Larry's not here, we're gonna get off topic, but we're not.
I feel like I keep trying to steer the ship off topic.
But that's 90%.
A lot of work to you to pull it back in.
That's 90% of our conversations, though. Is that when we talk on the phone and everything?
Yeah.
So, but he creates this term for public relations now, and one of his moves is he's going to create the need. Okay, and he's going to make the products that he's going to help sell or whatever, he's going to make them a symbol and a necessity, where it's this the idea of FOMO kind of comes from, this fear of missing out. So he's pretty good that way. Now, not for nothing, I want to hit this one topic here real quickly. He sells Dixie cups in a very interesting manner.
He might be responsible for, if you're germophobic, he might be the reason why. Because there was a time period where Americans generally did not think about germs the way we do now, and he's responsible for that framework.
So I get this straight. I can't see the germs, and the only way I could see it is through a device that you seemingly have to have.
Yeah. So basically, drinking fountains and like public use things were dirty. Drinking out of your hands was, of course, unacceptable and barbaric. And this is not necessarily because those things are true, but more or less because he needed to sell some Dixie cups.
Well, he used some interesting imagery I read about for the Dixie cups. Because you're right, the germophobia thing, that's all him. And you get people... It's almost like... we talk about it a little bit on the show from time to time, but the movie Idiocracy. You know, one of the great kind of cult movie comedies.
I've only seen it twice.
That's about all you need to see it, I think. It's not like... there's no rewatch value to it for me, but I definitely remember watching it. I was like, this has me thinking. So, but not for nothing in there, the big thing was, but it has what plants need. That was the advertising, and they couldn't figure out why they couldn't grow crops because they were pouring Gatorade on it.
Yeah.
So
Brahmo.
Yeah, and but it has what plants need. That's literally, that was ingrained to them. So it's like there's little things when a brand name becomes Brondo. There it is, the thirst mutilator. But
that was from a great era of films. I feel like Pootie Tang came out around that time. There was like this like real like big budget kind of go for it era in movies, and I feel like we kind of need to get back there.
I think it's going to have to eventually, because everything's there needs to be a Bernays behind the scene to kind of manipulate that back into it. By the way, no one believes me when I first tell them that Pootie Tang was directed by Louis C.K.
Yeah.
We should have known, but
I just watched his other movie.
Which one?
The movie that apparently, like, when the walls fell, he had ready to go. And
oh, shit. Yeah, okay.
And then they just popped it out on YouTube. It's with Malkovich.
And what's her name? The young girl or whatever who's kind of ruined her career. But
yeah. Anyway, pretty decent movie.
That's
pretty decent movie.
Louis doesn't make bad shit. That's the bottom line. Even Horace and Pete has its redeeming qualities. But it was... Now, for the imagery that he's going to sit here and conjure up for Dixie cups, in the advertising, he had water overflowing out of the cups to make it look like, to conjure up subconsciously. Because again, here's where Freud was a master of the subconscious, and Bernays is tapping into that by making you think that the Dixie cups look like dirty vaginas. That is 100% true. Okay. And Ming's bringing up a couple of the other wild things here. The Dixie cup, what he would do is he'd create imagery so it would look like as the water was overflowing, that it was dirty. Literally, a venereal disease was something that Bernays was like adamantly against, by the way. So,
who is pro venereal disease, KP?
That's a good point. No one's really super into it. But not for nothing, that was like a thing that he knew conjured up fear in people. So what he would do is he would use the imagery of that to tap into it. So it's a different form of germophobia, I guess. But it was the idea that these Dixie cups are going to look like, that this is the sanitary way to avoid that. So the cesspool that is a regular drinking cup, you need a Dixie cup, so otherwise you're going to get, gonorrhea. And that's pretty much how he sold it. And Ming's bringing up more photos too here, man. He's
yes, he's bringing up photos of Dixie cups. Yes.
Well, the old school advertising, man, it's great. Now we're about to get into the other weird thing too that he gets involved with, but I started talking about it and then we stopped because this guy, this guy's all over the place. He's nuts, man.
Well, I mean, he analyzes a product and then looks at where the hole in the market is.
Correct.
Right? So he looked at cigarettes, is what you want to get into.
Oh, yeah.
And he realized, like, oh, this is primarily a male market. Mm-hmm. So we needed to now, obviously, I can expand my business to the other 50% of the population. And he did that by, obviously, convincing women that smoking was super cool.
Yeah, not for nothing. I saw this too, because there's if you look at, like, we're at Shared Universe. These are comic book guys. I do genuinely believe that comic books are for everybody. You know what I mean? That there's going to be markets for it for everyone. I'm not really much of a comic book guy myself, but I do know the things that I've liked, I've loved. So, and you have to, I was a big Punisher fan and Wolverine. Those are my two. So,
obviously, Wolverine.
Yeah. But not for nothing, you see this a lot where they're like, oh, well, what about, if this is genuinely a male market, we need to find a way to get the lady dollar. Mm-hmm. So another thing that I have, and that's why I've never disrespected comics, because comic books, I should say, because I was still am to a degree, but not like I used to be. I was a passionate pro wrestling fan. Loved it. You know what I mean? Stone Cold Steve Austin, game changer. But not for nothing, wrestling figured out that if you get, like, the male dollars are there. That's never going to go away. That's kind of catered. But if you get women to want to buy the stuff too, that they're going to get involved with that. So there's been this huge push, and that, like, it's always funny to me because they pretend that it's about, like, moral equality and stuff like that. And there are parts of it. But at the same day, it's a cash grab, I should say.
I mean, I read something that was essentially saying, like, if you want to market any product, you have to market to 13 to 20-year-old women.
Yes.
Because they control so much of the resale dollar at that time and then in the future.
Because capitalism needs women, because women, they have the purchasing power. They have a lot. At that age, you have disposable income. You're not paying rent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
but
nuts.
If you form those tastes at that time, though, they persist throughout a lifetime.
Really?
If you're Dolce, you're Dolce. If you're Gabbana, you're Gabbana for life.
And if you're Dooney and Burke, you are Dooney and KP Burke. But it is wild, because that's a market you want, because as soon as you can get them hooked, which is hilarious because that's kind of how cigarettes worked, is you get them hooked at an early age and then you have repeat customers your whole life. But not for nothing, before we get into the cigarette market, we do have to talk about this one weird thing where Bernays kind of overthrew the government of Guatemala.
Oh, yeah.
So the UFC, the United Fruit Company, is sitting there and they're saying, hey, we're trying to sell bananas.
Yeah, you would think they would send Chuck Liddell or Tito Ortiz.
Oh, yeah, at least Tito can speak the language.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean?
He has that advantage.
But it's wild. They send him over. I don't even think he actually ever steps foot in Guatemala. I don't recall. So I can't say that with 100% certainty. But I do know that he starts making the spin move of bananas. They're healthy for you. Look how cool bananas are. Bananas are healthy, part of an American diet, bananas. And then they're sitting there like, hey, guys, those bananas you love so much? They're under threat from communism. So, yeah, in Guatemala right now, the government's starting to lean towards communism. And so then this propaganda campaign started. We're like, well, what if we put up like a puppet government and, made sure that they stayed friends for America? And you know what? Because you guys like bananas, right? So literally the whole plan comes and centers around bananas, and the United Fruit Company, as you said, the original UFC, winds up taking part in a coup, if you will, that replaces the government in Guatemala with a American-friendly regime.
Coup is the most peaceful sounding word for a typically violent affair.
Yeah, well, I think on the third episode of this very show, we...
Sounds like coy.
Yeah, like a baby coos.
Yeah.
But on the third episode of the show, we talked about Queen Liliuokalani, who was the last queen of Hawaii, who was literally overthrown by Dole, the Dole Company. So bananas took over Hawaii and now overthrew the government in Guatemala. Yeah,
and now this same, kind of tragic thing is playing out in Venezuela right now.
We're making the grab for them, dude.
Yeah, this is the playbook. But this appears, also I'm pretty sure there was probably another Bernays before him who did simpler things and is not written into the history books. But
Machiavelli would be in there for sure.
The Tupac?
No, the original Italian badass.
Okay. I'm only familiar with the Tupac.
No, that's it's. But you know what? 90%. If Kahuna was here right now, I'd be like, oh shit, finally! Like you gave him something to latch on to.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So this is the playbook, though. This is the modern playbook for all of these countries, Syria, that you're hearing now. That like you hear about one thing that justifies everything else, and then typically that thing is like a debatable crutch.
Yeah. Well, you create unrest. Okay, you create the idea of unrest, then you sit there and you slowly kind of be like, well, and you realize there's a lot at stake here, so the world needs to be concerned about this one thing that's going on. I had a joke I was doing. I try not to be topical in the act anymore because people are just ridiculous. But when Trump was first going to put the embargo on Mexico and talking about building the wall and everything, I was like, dude, this is great news for everyone who owns stock in Florida avocados. Okay. And I got called racist for posting that. And I was like, oh, Jesus, man. All right. So we're staying away from that one. But,
yeah.
Well, it's weird because you're right. That is the playbook here. So our boy Bernays is, uses bananas and imagery to conjure up this whole idea that the Guatemalan government has to be overthrown.
Now, the interesting thing is here, when we did the Dixie Cup thing, we were talking about that, he used the vagina as a symbol of the Dixie Cup and the germs. Now we come to bananas. It seems what the obvious symbology should be, but he was bigger than that.
You're right.
He didn't want to take the easy way out.
There's a phallic sense to that. Well played. But now we're going to get into my favorite part. Okay, yeah. This is one of his most famous case studies, if you will. He gets hired by Lucky Strike cigarettes. Okay. And Lucky Strike, like you were just talking about earlier, they understand that it's a fellas kind of market. Men smoke.
Yeah.
Okay. It makes me laugh so much that in World War II, cigarettes were being literally Lucky Strike cigarettes were being sent to the GIs on the ground from the Red Cross.
Yeah, because they were a great tool to burn off leeches.
Yeah, burn off.
I'm not making that up.
I know. Also, there was the idea that it was calming and soothing.
Well, that's true.
That's
and it looks cool. It's also true.
Again, it's hard to argue because it does look cool. There's no way around that.
See, I heard that he was originally working for like Marlboro, and that Marlboro, and they had a campaign that Lucky Strikes, where what do you want to be, an opera singer? So they were making Lucky Strikes effeminate, and when the Lucky Strike sales dipped, then Lucky Strike came in and bought Bernays off of the Marlboro of the time or whatever it was.
Because Marlboro does promote the badass cowboy lifestyle stuff.
I don't think it was Marlboro. I was using that as an example.
No, but that's a good example.
Oh, the Marlboro Man.
Yeah. Now get this. Marlboro Man, who died, obviously, his grandson, get this.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold, quarterback of the Jets.
Yeah.
Who is another man's man, a badass dude here, when you're coming from that Marlboro lineage.
Yeah, sports references are going to go, wow.
No, but dude, just the fact that there's even a connection should be interesting to most people.
Okay. Okay.
So you're right, though. Lucky Strike hires him. What they want to do is that Lucky Strike is trying to cash in on the lady market. We need to get women to smoke. Now, around this time frame, too, as the men are off at war, the women are now taking the Rosie the Riveter type positions, all right, working in factories, doing. Now, this leads to some solidarity in the nation too. Okay, and then not because women were part of the war effort here. The guys can't shoot anything if the factories aren't churning out bullets. So. But it also starts to spur on this intellectual contagion, as you call it, about the suffragette movement was already popular. Around this time frame, more feminism. The first, because feminism goes in waves, if you don't know. That's why I'm only really critical of the third current one, where it's like insanity to me at times. But I still agree with most of its tenets, as you and me have talked about on the phone before.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Disown. But not for nothing, so women are smoking now, and it's frowned upon for women to smoke in public. Okay, but women can smoke in the comfort of their own home. Now, the other thing that's coming in almost simultaneously with this is body image. That the first, a traditional looking, because it happens a lot too, like with movies and everything.
Yeah. Like,
it always makes me laugh. You'll see like a muscular man from like a 1940s or 50s movie. Right. It's always like John Wayne with like a big beer belly kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
Burt Lancaster with tub in front of him. But if you were tall and had shoulders, that was what, like back in 1940s, I'm Mr. America.
Yeah, okay.
That's but then you're looking at it, and the women are the style of body that women are being told is desirable is a thin frame on a woman. Okay, so you're also there's different looks. You're not getting like Marilyn Monroe just yet or anything like that, but you are getting a thinner frame on a woman. So it's desirable for women to be thin, and then they're also smoking is kind of a thing of independence for them. They're like, see, I'm not like I'm not a slave. I'm not barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. I'm actually going to smoke my cigarette because I work in a factory. Mm-hmm. So Bernays comes in, sees this opportunity, and then because he got paid a buttload of money from Lucky Strike, he now says he creates, this is one of the best things, Lucky Strike cigarettes, a strong alternative to sweets.
Yeah. So he appealed to the body shaming, and then I read that he changed he actually changed the label to green, and green was an incredibly unpopular color at that time.
That's interesting.
Like green was not regarded as something that you would paint a house or a wall or wear, and he changed it. He was
Must be doing an anti-Irish sentiment in the country still.
I mean, come on, and he changed the color to green, the packaging to green, and there's an era of Lucky Strikes where there was green, and that was a Bernays move. And I don't know exactly what the thought process was. I couldn't find that, but yeah. And he convinced women that smoking was a great symbol of their independence.
Yep. And not for nothing, because women were smoking indoors, like behind, kind of in the privacy. But now for a woman to smoke a cigarette out in public was still a bit of a taboo at the time.
Yeah, and they said that his wife smoked, and he would actively try to dissuade her from smoking because he realized at a certain point that there was health detriments as opposed to benefits.
Which is why he's hilarious, because he goes, I'm not going to enjoy this product, but I'm going to make sure you guys can.
Oh, yeah.
So that's like having an alcoholic sell beer.
But also, I don't really view any, you could take a lot of positions on this kind of stuff, but here's the reality. Somebody's going to sell you cigarettes.
Correct.
Somebody's going to deal heroin. Right?
So
at a certain point, you just got to go, if I'm doing it 10% more ethically than the guy who might come in behind me, I'm still doing the best thing for society.
Absolutely. Now, not for nothing, this is where Bernays comes in, that he gets compared to. We're lucky he was actually a pretty good guy.
Oh, well, okay. But if you would have applied this to convincing people that single payer health care is a good idea, right, then maybe we'd be in a different position. But we got bananas. We got bananas.
Well, he was a capitalist at the end of the day, so wherever the money is, he's going to go for that, which I get too. But not for nothing, get who reads his books and enacts some of his policies and some of his schemes.
John Podesta.
And along with a guy by the name of Joseph Goebbels.
Oh, yes.
The minister of propaganda for the Nazi Party.
Yeah.
So like you said, he's had phone calls with Hitler before.
Yeah.
Goebbels is reading his books, literally, because he had two books. It was The Crystallization of Public Opinion, I think.
Yeah, and he published the first one at 32.
Jesus, man. So
how old are you?
32. So, yeah.
Wow.
You can either write the foremost book on a brand new empire that's going to affect the rest of the world, or you can start a podcast with your dad.
Yeah. Well, Manson didn't start the family until he was 35. So there's a lot of room left.
Also true, man.
And then you kind of have to look at the economic disparity of then and now, and kind of being diet. The 27 Club is no longer the rise to fame is slower, and economics. So dying at 32 is also kind of the new 27 Club.
Well, 33 is when I'm going to go, I think, because that's when Farley and Belushi went.
You're not there yet.
I got one more year. That's why I wanted to have you on.
Okay, look, we're friends, but I'll go on that ride with you.
That's my Chateau Marmont.
Yeah, I'll be in the behind the music, just sunglasses inside. He was a good guy.
We know it's the true story. Not to get super off topic, because we're about to come right back into it. Is that when Belushi was eating himself to death at Chateau Marmont and doing heroin with that one woman, he had two visitors that night that both showed up, and they were like, "Hey, this is not good." One of them was Robert De Niro, and the other one was Robin Williams, who walked and he goes, "Oh, hello, oh, you're eating yourself to. I gotta go." So very weird when those two guys were like, "Yeah, something bad was happening. We had to get out of there."
Well, I mean, the Robin Williams thing I get, but I don't get the De Niro thing.
He was there, man. That was the two last people to see him alive.
Okay.
Now get this, though. We're talking about celebrities here. And celebrities are influencers, right? So
right.
You're talking about modern. This is all shit Bernays came up with. That if I can get a good-looking woman to smoke a cigarette, then people are going to sit there and say, "Oh, well, attractive people smoke." And then a woman will sit there and be like, "Well, I'm going to be more attractive looking now because A, I'm going to smoke these cigarettes. They're promising to make me thinner. We're going to dive into the body shaming. Oh, this will help me maintain a thin figure to attract more men, and it's a symbol of my independence. Why wouldn't you smoke a cigarette?"
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. There's a problematic thing. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. I did, right?
Oh, good on you, brother.
I did for my 20s. I was a Newport guy. I don't know, whatever that means about me and the advertisement that reached me specifically. But after I quit smoking, I did date a girl that was a smoker for 3 years, right? Mm-hmm. And I began to associate the smell of cigarettes with sexuality at that point.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, like, this is a very insidious thing. But then, like, even when you're out with your buddy who smokes and you smell that cigarette, like, things still happen. Like, the same, like, chemical responses are like, because I was associating cigarettes with sexuality.
Because a couple girls I've dated that smoked cigarettes, they said that whenever they quit, they gained like 15 pounds.
Well, yeah, there
is the legit taste buds.
Because you got to put
too.
Something in your mouth.
So Bernays was right. It does keep people thin. But
maybe you should take it up.
I've thought about it. I was like, if I quit drinking and just go right into smoking, yeah.
Well, yeah, because it's impossible to try to quit smoking and continue drinking for the most part. That's the hardest metric. But if you quit drinking and started smoking, you might be able to pull that off.
There's a move. I'd have to find a brand. So I'd have to ask, Bernays would have to psychoanalyze me and be like, well, here's what you seem to like. You seem to be a proud American. You seem to be, you try to model yourself as a man's man. Okay. There's a little ruggedness to you. I'm going to recommend Camels.
Yeah.
And I would listen because he would psychoanalyze me, figure out what the market was going to be and what I exactly want. And then boom, all of a sudden I'm smoking cigarettes.
Right. And now then you could also get into the whole, like, because we talked about the symbolism with the Dixie cup. And when I was growing up, you were always told, look at the man in the camel on the cigarettes. And if you look at the camel's back, there's a man pissing in the pack of cigarettes. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
You got Ming interested now. He's going to start.
Well, I mean, like, there's a whole, this is a spiral, obviously, but there's a whole thing of, like, the 666 and Disney logo. There's multiple times when there's symbolism.
Holy shit, he just found it.
Yeah. See?
Oh, my God, that's hilarious.
He's got his, like, arm back. There's, like, a definite dong type thing.
All right, I'll be putting that up on the Instagram account for American Loser.
Yeah.
But
this is fun because this is like a pre-internet conspiracy theory. This was like something that hippies would whisper to each other while we were, like, smoking cigarettes behind the high school.
Dude, that's wild because that's a damn good one. And unlike Marilyn Manson having his ribcage removed, this is actually true. We can see tangible results here. But that was the whole thing. Bernays would create the need for the product, and he would make it a symbol. So this is my absolute favorite one that he did. In order to get women to start smoking outdoors, he stages an event, okay? First of all, he's got attractive women smoking. Uh-huh. He hires a couple of good-looking chicks, and he decides that he's going to start marketing the cigarettes as torches of freedom. Mm-hmm. So it's, hey, ladies, this feminism thing's really taken off. If only there was a product you could use to symbolize your newfound independence.
Yes. I feel like they try. Okay, no, Bernays' methods can go wrong because when they attempted to rebrand French fries as freedom fries, that was like basically a novice trying to use his methods. But torches of freedom worked, and women were out smoking in droves.
Here was the best thing. He had his own event that he staged where he paid a couple of attractive female feminists to go out there and smoke cigarettes out in public, knowing that it would cause a stir, okay? Because now, not for nothing, everybody's talking about your product because the national conversation on feminism is there's the old school kind of and I don't want to say conservative or liberal because that brings up so many weird connotations, but a more old school Clint Eastwood get off my lawn kind of a person is like, you believe these broads are smoking cigarettes out in public now? And you're like, well, why can't we be smoking these cigarettes out? Like, I don't know, just that's not something I've seen before. And they go like, but everybody's sitting there and like, we're all talking about Lucky Strike.
Well, yeah, and it's
entire nation.
and it's the Saturday Night Live metric.
Yeah, which I liked a lot.
You create a conflict, and then people are talking about the conflict, and then the secondary point to the conflict is the product.
Well, what was the most talked about ad last year?
I don't know. It was probably, I feel like it had to do with razors.
Well, there's a couple, because whenever you have an inflammatory commercial, you think it would be bad, but
any press is good press.
Exactly. Yeah. So who was selling, like, not for nothing, they bring Kaepernick in for Nike, right. And the whole thing is they're leading it because it's a final misdirect swerve at the end when they reveal him, because they'll have like a person with no legs, doing handstands or something. You're like, wow, that's really inspiring, or all this, or they would have. They try to appeal to every demographic slowly, like they have like the Duck Dynasty guys or something like that. They have all these weird little things, and at the very end they swerve and show you Colin Kaepernick, and you're like, yeah, so if you believe in that stuff, you also believe in him. And it was kind of a weird move, because all of a sudden now the entire country is fired up. There's people screaming, death to Kaepernick. I can't believe it. I'll never fucking wear Nike ever again. And then there's the other people like, man, Nike's really, they're really fighting the good fight for us.
I mean, it's brilliant because like somehow it can, like that campaign convinced like people, woke people perhaps, that these shoes that are made in sweatshops are now a sign of your like societal responsibility.
Yeah, your moral high ground provided to you by slave labor in another country.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. And so it's almost the same thing as the Kaepernick commercial. And we try not to talk about too much current events here on the show because it is a history show. But I just thought there was too good of an example of using that the same way that they're using these torches of freedom now, where it's women are like, hey, do you have, I need to buy some cigarettes. I'm looking for Lucky Strike. They're like, well, we only have Marlboro and Camel Lights right now. You go, no, because those companies, those cigarettes aren't torches of freedom. Okay, I need the Lucky Strikes to prove to everybody I'm fucking hardcore.
Yeah.
You create the need for the person here. Now, there's a couple other things here too. Bernays had, when I was saying earlier that he was a good guy, like there's some skeletons in his closet for sure.
Well, he was he's fairly popular in the world of conspiracy theory or the truth community, depending on where you land on that. He's responsible for the fluoridation of water, which led to the John Birch Society, which is a very complicated issue that you will probably not spend hours on, but you could. And there was, and again, the alcohol thing. So he has inspired some bad habits. Totally.
It's and the beer thing made me laugh a lot too, because that's like there's literally ideas that we have that Bernays put in our heads, 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It's wild. But one thing I thought was worth mentioning too is that I keep saying that he was a good guy, but he has the way that he looked at the world. Okay, was that he believed himself to be an intellectual superior, which, let's be honest, he kind of was. Smart guy, okay. A descendant of Freud, as he would be very quick to tell you.
Double nephew.
Yeah, a Cornell graduate, too. Yeah. And when you have the entire world's, if there was an Illuminati, he has all of them on speed dial, okay?
Right.
But he did believe this, that humans are sheep, okay, and that we need good shepherds of higher intellects to lead them in the right direction. So his way of making, the way of justifying his actions of this propaganda, this psychological warfare that he's conducting, he's getting inside of our brains and taking a section of it over for himself. But the way he's saying is, but I'm only selling you good stuff. You know what I mean? I'm not using this for evil. But again, his book is being read by Joseph Goebbels, or Joseph Goebbels, depending on how you want to pronounce it, who literally is the mastermind of the final solution for Hitler's Germany.
Right. Well, I mean, I mean, you can manufacture something, but it depends, I don't know if you can be held responsible for the way other people use it. That's a very big ethical question.
Well, like you said, too, it's that he is 10% better than somebody else who could be using it for more nefarious purposes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think. And like his theories have been used to elect every president over the last 50 years. And now, but his popularity and the way he is shown on the internet is dependent on whether the president is popular or not.
Yes, that's. I saw photos. Just researching him, it would be a photo would pop up of him next to Trump, and they were talking. And I was like, but not for nothing, man. Like, if you were going to sell, if you had to engineer somebody in a Hollywood studio to be the first black president, Obama comes right out of central casting, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's complicated, but yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then, and everybody, when Bernays' Bernays' theories were used to popularize Obama. If you scrolled the internet, the results were good. Like the YouTube results would be like pro Bernays stuff. And now the first 5 results are like how he gave us Donald Trump. And you're like, well, I mean, look, it's a tool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, the reason he's a loser on this show is because he not for nothing, he died in 1995, I believe, at age 103. And we're still blaming current events on him.
Yeah.
So he kind of created everything here. And when you create controversy, it would spark national discussion for this stuff. The Germans are studying him. I shouldn't say the Germans. The Nazi Party is studying him. And they're using him to... That was just what they were able to do in terms of propaganda. It was pretty ridiculous in and of itself. But he did believe himself to be this good shepherd who was kind of guiding people in a certain way over here. And, you know, he died, like you said... Still active. Still a sharp guy.
Yeah.
Okay. And the family's worth, you know, quite a bit of money. I'll put it that way.
And just he grew up, and his methods were in a time where ideas took time to permeate, right? There is a guy who's him now, I'm sure, but imagine a Bernays in a world of social media and how quickly you could change public opinion.
Yeah.
You know, in this 24-hour news cycle, ideas like this, you can weaponize, like he said, ideas are weapons better than bullets. You know, you could weaponize an idea in hours. When he started these ideas, or when he started this methodology, it took years. You know,
that's a good point too, man. It's almost a good thing he didn't have access to some of the weapons he has now. Which, by the way, you want to talk about a weird thing with advertising? I got offered a job. I won't say by what company. But they're looking to hire comedians to be the brand representatives for social media. I'm not saying me as the brand. They want me to be like, you know, Wendy's does it, where Wendy's Twitter like claps back at people and stuff. They wanted me to do that for a new product that they're trying to come up with. And it's an established product. I can't say the name of it. I'm legally not allowed to. But I didn't get the job. I'll put it that way. And the reason why is because they wanted somebody meaner. So that's an interesting thing.
You didn't call me?
That's I wasn't allowed to. That was the problem.
Yeah, I mean, we could work around that.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I lost that on the gig.
We'd have our own little personal Ukraine phone call.
We are wrapping up here towards the end, but you brought notes in, brother, and you're the subject matter expert on this, so make sure that you have everything. If there's anything else you want to add in here, because I loved reading about this guy.
Okay, I think here's a side note. I think he was a very behind the scenes guy. As you mentioned earlier, we brought up pictures. He's not the most attractive fellow.
No, he actually looks a little bit like Tesla.
He's uglier.
Well, ugly Tesla.
Yeah, Tesla, chubby Tesla. Like Tesla at least had that like Count Duke like feel to him. Like if you saw like a portrait of him painted in like a gown and like with a crown, like you'd be like, okay, that makes sense.
Ming just brought up Tesla next to Bernays side by side.
Yeah. Oh, Tesla's way more fuckable.
Yeah, it looks like you and the guy she told you not to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah. But
them Austrian boys.
If you listen to Bernays, you understand he had a voice for books. Like he has a accented, like if picture Theodore Chipmunk with an Austrian accent. Like so physically he was off-putting, verbally he was off-putting. So now, like, is this whole thing responsible because of that? Like, like comedians, most of us are funny because we encountered tragedy or trauma growing up.
Yes.
Did he choose this path because he was like, hey guys, you know, like an awkward individual? So he was like, I got to learn how to manipulate people behind the scenes.
Well, not for nothing too. We're a good podcast here. I do believe in what we're doing, but in the realm of things, because I always tell you, like, we'll reach out to other history podcasts and try to, you know, cross promote and stuff. And I'll go check out some of these podcasts, and it's like we get because people have a comfort because in their subconscious mind, my voice and my father's voice have been called, quote, soothing.
Oh, yeah. You have a Mike Rowe quality.
It's actually a guy I look up to. So, but it's when we're talking or whatever, people hear our voices and then they give us this credence, which just kind of like we pull in more listeners that way. There's other extremely well-researched podcasts about topics that I find fascinating that I cannot listen to because the narrator's voice is too aggravating.
Oh, no. Sam Harris is like... a monotone professor, like an extra, like he's given the lecture 100 times.
He's burnt out. It's almost summer. You know?
Yeah. He's just really kicking back. He's like, his PAs are doing a lot of his work, you know.
He is a boring guy on that one, but then there's other people that just you love the sound of their voice. And again, the way my father presents himself too, people buy into that. Like, this guy probably knows what he's talking about, you know. So we take advantage of that, and that's not exactly a Bernaysian way of thinking.
No, and your dad's sharp.
Oh yeah,
your dad's sharp. He comes in with a good comment exactly when it needs to come in, and I appreciated that.
Well, he does some good research here, man. Now I do miss him down in Old South Beach. He will be back, but. Brother, this was an important one to get you in on. Did you have anything else you wanted to hit for Bernays? Because you have notes, man. When people have notes, I want to make sure we reward them.
I think like it's important to talk about how he led things positively, but like also I think that there's a lot of opportunity to the secondary form of what he did is like taking something and forming, like if something organically evolves and then manipulating that, right? So you take any given topic and then you do this thing, what I call bigfooting it. If you think something is a conspiracy or there's some nefarious hands at work or there's questions that need to be answered, then you take whatever it is and kind of apply this Bernays method of being like, okay, you have questions about 9/11 or anything, and you go, oh, so the planes were holograms. Right, and you put this kind of stuff. You put like, there's an international ring of child molesters. Yeah, with in a pizza place, and you just kind of you take whatever might be real, and then you apply Bernays to it, and you just go, yeah. Well, now like you get pulled over by a cop drunk driving. Yeah, and I got 4 clowns in the back seat. You know what I mean? Like what? And you're like, yeah. Well, obviously I didn't. You know, obviously, you perpetuate a ridiculous idea to cover up a plausible idea, and I think, and somehow that's kind of a reverse engineering of his methods.
I would agree with that too. And then, not for nothing, our behind the ones and twos, our very own Ming over here is what's the company that has you on their advertising for podcast equipment?
That'd be Zoom. Everybody,
Zoom, right?
Zoom.
No, I have one of those at home.
He's legit. Well, Ming is legit one of the spokes. Not as a spokesman, or just you're in the advertising.
I'm in the advertising. I think it's a little bit of both. They have a new mixing board out called the LiveTrack L8. It's billed as the board for podcasters. So they came to
Well, of course, who's going to give the audience who knows a thing or two about podcasting a little bit of credence than the podcast king himself, Ming.
Yeah.
So it's wild that way, dude. And not for nothing though, I do want to wrap up because we're over on time here. The new move for American Losers is try to be no more than an hour and 10 minutes.
Okay.
So I think we're right on the money with that one. I got an hour 11 on my thing. I know we started a little bit earlier, but. While you think of anything else you want to go out on real quick, I just got to plug one or two things. First of all, Ming, I'm going to plug the new location for you guys, if that's
Absolutely.
okay.
That's totally cool, yes.
All right, Asbury Park, right out there on the boardwalk, and that's going to be for at least another month or so, right?
Yeah, possibly longer. It seems like the city is very encouraging of what we're doing, so we might be there a little longer.
Dude, it's great. I can't wait to be down. I know we got plans for something. I don't know if you want to talk about it on air or not. We don't have to.
Oh, yeah. Well, inspired by comedians such as yourselves, I'm like, wait, we have a space. We have microphones. What else would you do but an open mic? So,
it's going to be cool.
I'm looking at early February, one weekday night. Assignments will start at like 7:30. We'll get rolling at 8:30, and
I love it.
We'll see what happens because I encourage the stand-up comedian community in this area for sure. And,
there's a good scene down in Asbury too. There's that's where I met Andy, my buddy Angelo Gingerelli, Jack Steiger, who came on for our Lovecraft episode and showed us all his mental illness on full display.
Yeah, so
you leased space on the Asbury Boardwalk?
I did by some miracle. I don't know how this happened, but podcasting, man, it takes you places.
Wow.
I want to do an episode there soon before that runs out. I thought about asking for this one because I saw you were down there earlier today. Or at least you posted like you were there earlier today.
That was last night.
That's
but,
good.
It's, what do they call that? A latergram? Is that what the kids call it? Like
fair enough, man. That's
damn. I didn't know that.
But I'd love for both of you to show up when we do that.
I want to bring Andy on for another. I want to when my father's back too.
For sure.
Again as well. But
I think that would be fun.
No, it's cool, dude. I love being here. I always tell people, I was like, we could, because people tell me like, dude, why don't you just get the Zune and do the shit at your house? And I was like, there's something about people like bringing a guest into a studio that just gives the show a little bit more professionalism. And then there's nothing more fun than getting up and leaving out of here and just being like, all right, well, you guys go handle that. And then Kahuna's sitting there. Meanwhile, I got like fucking 3 episodes stacked up. He hasn't edited yet, but I'll get it. I'll yell at him about that later. But if you're going to do a podcast, guys, this is a legit endorsement here. Just come check out A Shared Universe. They got some good stuff going on, man. They make your life a lot easier.
Thank you.
Okay. But that being said, Ming, thank you for everything today, brother. It's great being here.
Absolutely, anytime and always.
I know that, man. You guys are the best. So if you want to check them out, it's at A Shared Universe on Instagram, all that other good stuff. Check us out at American Loser podcast. It's at American Loser Podcast on Instagram. I'll post a couple of the weird things we were talking about today. You can follow me at KP Burke Sucks on Instagram. I deleted my Twitter because I have something potentially big going on and I refuse to lose my job to Twitter. And then KP Burke at Facebook. I do have a website. I fucking hate it. I don't really like the guy who made it, but I do have it. I got some upcoming dates on there I got to work on. But just keep in touch on Facebook, man. That's really where I'm doing most of my damage. And if you guys like this show, we love doing it. And we're going to be back. And actually, we got a couple saved up right now, a couple of Larry Burke episodes. My father, we pre-recorded before he left for Florida. He'll be back in March because he's Irish. And he has to come back up for parade season. But do me a favor. You leave me a written review for the podcast. That's all I'm asking. I don't want to charge money for this. I don't want to start putting up premium content or building any sort of a paywall. So just do me a favor. Written reviews. And it's hard to tell who some of you are from your usernames. The usernames are hilarious, by the way, a lot of them. One of them just wrote, "I want to bang the elder Burke." So that's some dude trying to bang my dad. But anyway, it means a lot to us. Also pushes us up in the rankings so more people can find us. And if you are a listener who has found us without having any sort of connection to me, just know it's really cool. And it's because people left those reviews that you were able to find us. And I love you for that. So thank you very much. Andy, where can people find you, brother?
Mainly on Instagram at Andy_Highroller.
One of my favorite follows on social media, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's anti-social media. Social media. It is just my pictures of Bloody Marys and sushi. It's a lifestyle blog. You know, I'm an influencer.
You are, just as Bernays intended.
Yeah, and I'll be at the Burned Bridges Comedy Festival.
Oh, nice, dude. In Pittsburgh, right?
I made that up.
Oh, dude, I thought that was a real thing.
Nah, just burn a lot of bridges in the industry.
Well, I'm working on something. I'm about to get fired from a club, I think, pretty soon. But
might as well.
Yeah, we'll see what happens on that one, man. But no, I'm excited because now there's an opportunity to get some more shit going down the Jersey Shore with you. But that being said, anything else you want to leave as we wrap up here, buddy?
No, I'm good. Thanks, man.
I thank you so much to my guest, Andy Lawson. Please check him out, Andy Highroller at social media. Funny dude. Come see him live. I'm going to try to bring... Actually, I think we're doing John and Peters together soon.
Juan and Peters.
Over in New Hope, Pennsylvania. We're trying to put together a final date for that. Lineup was approved. I don't have a date yet. So
Great Bloody Marys.
Dude, that might be an overnighter.
Fried pickles. Ooh.
That might be an overnighter.
There's a lot of bed and breakfasts in that
there
area.
Sure are,
boy.
buddy.
We could... It'll be chilly too, you know what I'm saying?
I'm warm. Let me tell you, that's literally the first. I'm funny and I'm warm. That's the quality most girls notice in me around this time of year. So, but that being said, guys, this was Edward Bernays. This was a fantastic episode. Thank you so much. And again, that was Edward Bernays, American Loser.
An American loser the day I was born. An American loser the day I was born. An American loser the day I was born.